New York City, 1916. The Lower East Side was a jungle of noise and concrete, an immigrant battlefield where boys grew into wolves before they learned to shave. Tenements stacked like tombs scraped the sky. Sewers overflowed. Street gangs ran wild. Life was cheap, and dreams were even cheaper. In the middle of this chaos walked a skinny Sicilian teenager with eyes too calm for his age. His name was Salvatore Lucania, though the streets would later rename him something far more dangerous. He came from nothing. A father who broke his back unloading ships, a mother who prayed her son would become anything but what he already was becoming. Salvatore understood one truth early. Survival was not given, it was taken. He ran errands for Jewish kids one day, fought Irish boys the next, and learned the territory lines between gangs as if memorizing a map of heaven and hell. The Lower East Side taught him that fists age, knives rust, guns jam, but alliances survive. He befriended boys who would one day shake the underworld. Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, Frank Costello. They were all poor, all hungry, all angry that the world treated them like outsiders. Salvatore's charm made friends. His ruthlessness kept them. He learned to smile while calculating. He learned to shake hands with one man and plan his replacement with another. He learned that fear moves slower than respect. The streets whispered his new name after he survived a brutal kidnapping that should have left him dead. Lucky. The boy from the slums had been reborn. New York had a way of crowning kings in blood. Part 2. The Night the Old World Died. By the late 1920s, Lucky Luciano had risen through the ranks of the Italian Mafia, but he had one problem: the old guard. Men like Joe the Boss Masseria clung to tradition like a life raft in a stormy sea. They rejected change. They rejected cooperation. They rejected Luciano's vision of a modern, multinational criminal empire. Masseria demanded loyalty and obedience. Luciano offered efficiency and profit. The old Mafia believed in Sicily's ancient rules. Luciano believed in America. Tensions grew until they could no longer be ignored. The Castellamarese War erupted, a 2-year bloodbath that turned streets into graveyards and allies into corpses. Bullets replaced diplomacy. Funeral homes overflowed. Luciano waited patiently. He watched both sides crumble. He understood that wars end not when one side wins, but when the right man decides who deserves to lose. The turning point came in 1931. Lucky arranged a meeting with Masseria at a Coney Island restaurant. Cards, wine, pistachio shells on the table. Luciano excused himself to use the restroom, leaving Masseria with his cigar and illusions of power. Seconds later, 4 hitters entered. They surrounded the old boss. Gunfire shattered the room. Masseria's cigar fell from his mouth before he did. The old world died on that table. Luciano returned, smoothed his suit, and stepped into history. The streets were silent. Everyone understood what had just happened. America belonged to Lucky now. Part 3. The Commission. Luciano knew something no mafia boss before him understood. Power collapses when held too tightly. Strength, real strength, is shared. In 1931, he called every major crime family leader to New York, not to declare war, not to demand allegiance. He invited them to create something new. A board of directors for the underworld, a governing council, a way to prevent useless bloodshed. It became known as the Commission. Around that table sat the most feared men in America: Bonanno, Mangano, Profaci, Chicago's Frank Nitti, representing Capone, Buffalo's Stefano Magaddino. Luciano promised neutrality, prosperity, and a system where disputes would be settled with votes instead of bullets. The Commission worked better than anyone expected. Territories were divided, businesses expanded, rackets flourished. The Mafia transformed from a chaotic swarm of gangs into a corporate empire. Lucky Luciano had accomplished something extraordinary. He united men who trusted no one by making them depend on each other's greed. He became the invisible architect behind America's organized crime. Part 4: The Fall of a King. Power invites enemies. Success invites jealousy. And in Luciano's case, both arrived wearing government badges. In the mid-1930s, crusading prosecutor Thomas E. Dewey declared war on the Mafia. His target was Luciano. Newspapers printed headlines calling Lucky the most dangerous criminal in America. Luciano laughed at first. Then the arrest began. Police raided brothels, gambling dens, and safe houses. Informants whispered his name. Witnesses recited rehearsed lines. Evidence appeared that should never have existed. Dewey was determined. Luciano was too visible. The commission could not protect him. In 1936, Luciano was convicted on charges of compulsory prostitution, a case still debated to this day, and sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison. The king of the underworld woke up behind bars. He paced iron floors. He planned. He waited. A man like Luciano did not grow old in prison. He found exits where others found walls. Part 5: The Quiet Deal That Saved America. World War II changed everything. The U.S. Navy panicked over the possibility of German sabotage on American docks. A fire on the SS Normandy fueled fears. Rumors spread that Mafia-controlled waterfronts could be infiltrated. Officials realized something ironic. The only person who could secure the docks was the man they locked away. Luciano was approached with an offer: help protect American ports, help manage contacts among sailors, dock workers, and Sicilian resistance networks, help the Allies navigate Sicily's criminal landscape during the invasion of Italy. In return, consideration for release, Luciano agreed. Through coded messages, intermediaries, and underworld channels, he gave the government exactly what it needed: stability, cooperation, and silence where silence was vital. After the war, he was freed, but not forgiven. In 1946, he was deported to Italy. He stepped onto Sicilian soil for the first time since childhood. He was free, yet exiled, a king without a kingdom. Part 6: The Man Who Never Stopped Ruling. Naples became his final throne. From a small apartment overlooking the bay, Luciano remained the quiet heartbeat of the Mafia. He advised bosses. He coordinated international heroin lines. He monitored the American families through letters and secret emissaries. He grew older, but never weaker, never irrelevant. Young mafiosi visited him like a prophet. Old bosses respected him like a ghost. He lived long enough to see his empire change, fracture, evolve, but his influence remained woven into the bones of the underworld. On January 26, 1962, Lucky Luciano walked out of his apartment to meet a film producer planning a movie about his life. Moments later, Luciano collapsed from a heart attack. No bullets, no betrayal, no blood. A rare ending for a man of his world. But as police carried his body away, the truth rippled through every Mafia family in America and Sicily. They had lost the architect, the man who built the modern Mafia, the king who ruled without needing a crown. If you made it to the end, thank you. Please leave a like and subscribe. It helps me create more stories like this one. because some secrets are still waiting to be heard. Palermo, 1949. In the narrow streets where laundry hung like surrender flags above the alleys, a boy grew up learning silence before he learned speech. His name was Emilio Ventresca, a child who barely cried, barely spoke, barely existed in the eyes of neighbors. His father, a fisherman, disappeared at sea when Emilio was 6. Some said by storm, others by men whose nets drag more than fish. His mother scrubbed floors from dawn until her bones ached. Emilio watched everything. He listened. He memorized the patterns of the streets, which doors stayed open too late, which windows closed too fast, which men walked with fear disguised as pride. By the age of 12, he could tell a liar by the sound of his footstep. By 14, he learned a truth every Sicilian boy eventually faces. In Palermo, justice is a rumor, but power is real. One evening, while delivering bread, he witnessed something that changed him forever. A local debt collector beating a store owner in front of his children. The man screamed for mercy. Emilio saw mothers hide behind curtains, men close their doors, priests pretend not to hear. No one would save the shopkeeper. No one dared, except the boy who never spoke. Later that night, the debt collector was found unconscious in an alleyway, his own stick shoved between his teeth. No one saw who did it, but a certain caporegime of the local clan did notice one thing: a young boy with cold eyes watching from the shadows. They started calling him Il Fantasma, the ghost, not because he vanished, because he was everywhere no one expected, and never where danger waited. Part 2. The Making of a Silent Lord. By the early 1970s, Emilio Ventresca had climbed through the underworld without firing a single shot publicly. Men who underestimated him either disappeared or changed their loyalty within a week. He had a talent that terrified even seasoned mafiosi. He won wars without anyone noticing a war was happening. He severed supply lines quietly. He bribed judges no one knew existed. He found secrets buried under decades of silence. Most mafia leaders ruled through fear. Emilio ruled through precision. His operations were refined, elegant, almost surgical. A rival's accountant arrested for a tax slip. A lieutenant caught with planted evidence. A cousin exposed as an informant. All done quietly, cleanly. Emilio's violence never hit the streets. It happened in offices, banks, governments. Unlike other dons, he didn't enjoy public displays. He avoided celebrations. He rejected titles. He kept a small circle, smaller even than tradition allowed. This made him an anomaly, but it also made him untouchable. The newspapers whispered about a new invisible power rising in Palermo. Police couldn't find his fingerprints. His name never appeared in informant testimony. Politicians who suspected him suddenly received anonymous envelopes containing the proof of their own corruption. By 1980, he controlled more than half of Palermo's heroin routes, yet no one had ever photographed him at a meeting. He was the Don you could never see. And then came the moment that turned him from a phantom into a legend. He refused an order from the Corleone faction. That was a death sentence, unless you were someone like Emilio. Part 3. The Night of the Burning Orchards. The Corleonesi sent a warning before sending bullets. A convoy of their soldiers drove into the countryside where Emilio kept his mother's old house. They set fire to the family orchard. Orange trees that had survived wars, droughts, and generations of Ventrescas. Flames painted the sky red. Smoke rose like a funeral prayer. Most men would rage. Most dons would declare war. Emilio simply watched. He stood beside two of his men, hands folded, face calm. "Dawn, should we strike now?" they asked. "No," he said, "not while they expect it." The next 3 weeks were eerily quiet, too quiet. Then one by one, key Corleonesi assets began to collapse. A trucking company was raided unexpectedly. A warehouse burned mysteriously. A politician linked to their faction was caught with foreign accounts. A trusted soldier defected, then vanished. None of this pointed to Emilio. None of it could be traced. Each incident looked like bad luck, unless you knew who engineered it. The Corleonesi sent scouts, informants, hit teams. They found nothing except more losses. In the end, they requested a truce. Emilio accepted, but he never forgot the orchard. His vengeance was never loud. It was a slow, steady erosion, the kind that rotted a house from underneath until it collapsed by its own weight. Part 4. The Vanishing of the Ghost. In 1984, Italian prosecutors launched the Maxi trial, the largest anti-mafia operation in history. Names of hundreds of mafiosi filled the papers. Photographs of bosses flashed across the news. Wiretaps played on national television. But one name never appeared: Emilio Ventresca. He had become what he always pretended to be. Not haunting. A ghost does not always vanish. Sometimes it becomes a city itself. If you made it to the end, thank you. Please leave a like and subscribe. It helps me create more stories like this one, because some secrets are still waiting to be heard.